right. All here and accounted for. Yeah, I was going to sing a song to bring you together. Do you know the coffee cantata? C-O-F-F-E-E, don't drink so much coffee. Not for children is this Turkish brew. Dulls the mind and nervous system too. Take this advice from me. Have a nice cup of tea. All right. Now everybody's listening, right? I'm not really a singer, but I thought you'd like that. So my presentation, we're going to take it back to you yourself and what you're going to do in terms of leadership, whether you're working with people you're familiar with or working with strangers. And it's kind of a funny title, How to See the Light in Others. Why? Why did I choose that title? It's because facilitation is really all about being able to see the best in other people and pull that out of them, so that when you're working with a group, you are getting the best that they have to give, rather than wading through doubts, insecurities, and interaction problems. So basic characteristics of good facilitation. This is probably stuff you already know, but I would feel remiss if we didn't go through it. Being warm and accepting of others. People often equate that with being extroverted or verbal, and that's not always the case. But being able to welcome people, to smile at them, to let them know you're glad that they arrived in the place where you're going to be leading them in this small group. Having a high regard for self-planning competencies. This is the respect that you're working with adults, or even when you're working with children, that they have their own plans for themselves. They know where they want to go, they know what they want to do, and they may come into your presence with those ideas. You can kind of coax that into a different place, but it works very well to understand that when people come into your presence, they have an idea of what they want to get out of that. And if you ignore that, you're going to be going in different directions. Participating as a dialogue between equals. Again, they bring their own experiences to the interaction. They may have had the same training you've had. They may have had a different training that led them to believe that they have advanced knowledge. You may be able to learn as much from the people that you're leading as they learn from you. It's an exchange rather than filling up an empty cup. And being open to change and seeking to learn. And I think that that's very evident in all of you, that you're just eager to know more, eager to do more. And that is a good quality for a facilitator. Facilitation is not just one practice that you do. Facilitation is like a four-legged table. All four legs you have some control over, but if it's missing a leg, then you have to work extra hard to shore that table up, because the surface of the table is where you do your work. That needs to be steady and it needs to be clear. The first leg of the table is the structure of the day, how the day is organized, the space that you've created to do the work, the comfort level of the space, and how you fit in there. Don't ever feel constrained by the structure of a day. If it needs to change in order to accomplish what needs to be accomplished, be flexible around that. If you need to change your space, be flexible around that. Is there another classroom we can use that would be quieter? We decided to go outside and work on the picnic table because the air is too dead in here. Let's open some windows, or let's work shorter and come back another day, or let's work longer and get this done. You don't have to be constrained by the structure. You can move around loosely within a boundary, and whoever is ultimately in charge of the space where you're working or the agenda, you can always dialogue with them, and I encourage you to feel empowered to do that, to not think of yourself as a worker bee, but someone who can negotiate for the good of your group. The resources available, we assume that you come prepared. You carry your little binder around with you if it's full of good information that you might need to refer to. You'll have your internet sources, which will be substantial and useful. But there are people resources too, and you won't always have immediate access to them. You may need to say, I will get that answer and come back. That's a pretty common one. Or there may be an instance where you can make a phone call or write an email and get an answer back before the end of your session so that you can move on with the work. The other leg of the table is what the group brings to the work that you're doing. The mood of the group, what they've experienced back in their own districts. The last interaction they had when they got together to do a task, was that positive or negative? It's important for you to get the feel of the mood of your group before you begin your work so that you are not surprised when things come out of the woodwork. Even that little exercise we did about how many people are experiencing a transition in their district, almost every single person around this table raised their hand, and you're from all different districts. That is the amount of upheaval and change you're experiencing. And just being able to express that, to look around and say other people are going through this too, that changes the mood of the group. So have that idea in the back of your mind to find out where people you're working with, whether it's a group of 4 or a group of 15, what are they bringing to the table before you even begin. And the last leg of the table, and the one that we often ignore because we always put ourselves last, is what you bring to the table. How aware are you of what you bring to the table? How much do you think about what your presence is, how your presence is experienced by others? When you walk into a room or when you stand up and lead a group, what feeling emanates from you? I remember when I was younger, my eyesight was always very poor because growing up, reading was not a value that my family had, so I used to read under the covers at night and strained my eyes at a very young age. So my eyesight was always really bad. And I started teaching college when I was in my late 20s, and I used to scowl because I couldn't see the back of the room. And I would get feedback after feedback. The teacher's mad at us. The teacher's mad at us. When I didn't have those feelings at all, but I was unaware of how I came across because I was squinting at people. Now I wear contacts, so I can smile at you and squint. But, you know, we don't spend a lot of time thinking about ourselves and the atmosphere that we carry around with us, unless we've just had a really bad fight with our boss or our spouse, and we know that we have a cloud over our heads. So think about for a minute, we're gonna spend a few minutes thinking about who you are as a facilitator and what kind of a facilitator are you. And this is the fun part, to be able to have the luxury to spend a few minutes just thinking about yourself. So there are many different types of facilitators, and I'm going to pick on my colleagues here. I hope they will forgive me. For instance, we have Scott. Scott is a very confident facilitator. When he stands up, he has a commanding presence. He's very sure of what he's saying. He instills confidence. He makes you feel confident in the knowledge that he imparts. Do you not feel that way when you go and repeat something you've heard Scott said? You feel very solid about it? Yeah.
Sometimes they blame him.
Yes, he also has broad shoulders, so we do blame him for a lot of things. Ellen is a very collegial facilitator. Did you not experience that when she got up to do her presentation? She was dialoguing with you. She wasn't giving you information. She was sharing information and asking you to share back with her, which you did. It suddenly became this big conversation back and forth and feedback. She's very collegial. And Susan she is one of those quiet facilitators. She's like the stealth facilitator. She does not speak unless she has a reason for speaking. And then when she speaks, it's powerful, it's to the point, and it's correct. 3 different styles, but all very strong and very effective. And we've seen each of those styles today. So here are some common archetypes for facilitators. The invisible facilitator. Now, I'm not going to give you more information about this, I'm going to ask you to give me information. Think about when you have had or experienced an invisible facilitator. What did that facilitator do? What made them an invisible facilitator? Somebody give me an example? Yes?
Ask a lot of questions to get the answers from the group.
Okay, so they didn't lead.
They didn't tell,
but-
they just kind of, probed for questioning.
Okay, and you had an example too?
They didn't project. They didn't project their voice. They didn't seem to have a presence.
Okay. Yep.
I've seen the invisible when suddenly they forget they're the facilitator and they try to take on the role as group leader. Instead of focusing on the process of the group, they start focusing on the outcome and the result and what the answer is going to be.
Yeah, these are three beautiful responses because each type of facilitator has two sides to the coin. If you're an invisible facilitator, you can elicit from the group. If you're an invisible facilitator, you cannot do enough to facilitate the group. You can be ineffective. What about this one? The facilitator is chameleon. Can you give me an example of that? Yes.
Well, I'm thinking of a facilitator that might be following a protocol, but is able to do so in a way that the protocol, like maybe the previous facilitator, becomes invisible. It's you don't feel like you're being taken through a process. It's just sort of happening naturally, and the facilitator is orchestrating that in such a way that it doesn't feel like it's being done to you as a group. It's just happening, and the group is functioning in such a way that the work's getting done.
Okay, so the chameleon part would be?
That it's unlike, I say, a conductor in an orchestra where the facilitator is perhaps visible and playing a very active role. This facilitator is just sort of naturally making things happen, but doing so in such a way that sort of blends in.
Okay, excellent. Anything else? Yes.
I was kind of thinking of somebody that talked out both ends. Kind of, you never really got an answer, or you got what seemed like to you contradictions in their answers.
So both sides of the coin again. So blending in can be good in that you feel you're moving along organically. There can be too much blending in where you don't get a straight answer. Facilitator is dictator. Has anyone ever experienced this? Tell us about it.
I worked for a principal who used to pound her fist on her table, on her desk, and she was extremely intimidating. That's just the way that she operated. And the kids were all afraid of her, everybody was scared of her.
Right, scary.
And not much, not much leadership either at the same time.
Yeah.
Not much of
This
what people
will
needed.
happen.
Right. Not listening to what people needed.
Is there a positive side to facilitators, dictator?
I've been in a fire situation in a building where I was really happy that person was taking charge because I felt safe right away. I was like, okay, we're going with that guy, right? I've had that where that's what you kind of want.
Yeah.
We're going to get out of here and this is how it's going to go.
Yeah. And there are situations even more casual than life and death where you really want your facilitator to help make a decision. Facilitator as conductor. Has anyone experienced this type of facilitator?
Makes me think like sometimes with a staff meeting or something, it'll be set up, like you're gonna go to this table, read this, and you're gonna go do this. It's kind of like a jigsaw or something like that. And so the facilitator did a lot of planning ahead of time to like make it all worthwhile, but while it's happening, they're just sort of in the background making sure everyone knows what's happened, like guiding you through it.
And that sounds very appealing. Is there a negative side to facilitator as conductor?
Things go awry. Things aren't going as well as you would hope that they would, and you may not get your outcome.
So
Have an
how the instruments play may be dependent on the skill of the conductor.
or even on the skill of the musician. So
Yeah.
if you're conducting, I think you have to be really attuned to the skills in the group so that you can maximize that and then make sure that if there are holes,
Good point.
find a way to fill
I worked for a principal that put you on the spot. And you? What? So what do you mean? I mean, it was, a conductor would point that it's your turn now. You never felt safe in the room.
The facilitator who moves with the elements and sails the sea, what is this like? Has anyone experienced this type?
Makes me think like if they jump on every initiative, like, we're gonna do this because it's the best thing. No, next week we're gonna do this. And then we're gonna do that, and you never really get good at any of it. 'Cause you're just
Too much
jumping,
fluidity.
yeah.
And you were shaking your head also.
Oh, yeah, and I think for me that sounds appealing when you were talking about keeping in mind what the overall goal is, but also being able to be flexible with what the variables are in front of you and not being too dogmatic or dictatorial and knowing that if the group needs to accomplish a certain thing, that they need to accomplish that. So you move with that while still taking account of what the wind's doing and
Yeah.
what is going to be damaging and when, okay, no, we can't completely move in that direction because that would put us in danger, right? But that if it still contributes to the overall goal but is not maybe exactly the route that you thought that you would go, that that's still appropriate.
Watch out for whales, right? Steer the ship. Yeah. Yes. You can see that it's a continuum, that each style has a continuum. And then this type, like a parent that's holding a bicycle and then lets go. Has anyone experienced that type of facilitation? Do you want to tell us about it?
Yeah, I think both on the positive and negative spectrum, that facilitator that gives you the scaffolding and lets you go at exactly the appropriate time, or the opposite, that's holding on to you and you want to say, just let me go, I'm ready, or go and I don't even know what I'm supposed to do. So, yeah.
So in a way, what we're doing here today is like this type of facilitation. Last year, you had content leads that told you what you needed to do, where you needed to go, and what the goals were. And now we put you on the bicycle. And pretty soon we're gonna let go, and you're gonna be steering the bicycle, you're gonna be taking it down the hill, and it's gonna be full of other people riding on your fender. But we will still be here to help you if you topple over, and we have Band-Aids. All right, so we are going to think now about what your facilitation style is. And we're going to use something called a microstructure to do it. A microstructure is a structure for a group. Remember, we talked about that leg of the table, the structure in which you do things, that encourages participation in groups of all sizes. And we are doing this today so that you can put this particular microstructure in your pocket as one of the tools you can use when you are leading your task development groups, small or large. There are many more structures that can be used. Here are some reasons that we do microstructures. It really does help to engage a group. All around the table, there are people who speak up easily, and there are people who have great ideas that don't speak up. They are waiting to be asked, or they are waiting to reflect before they speak. When you use a microstructure, it engages all those different types of personalities so that you don't always have the same people contributing to the work of the group. And this is very important in task development, because if you're listening to the same people speaking up time after time, then you're not infusing, it's not representing all the districts that you have around the table. So you really want to use methods that will engage everyone in your group. The self-reflective part, you use that in your classrooms, I'm sure, that you know that there is a depth of contribution if you give students a minute to reflect before they speak, and that is true for adults also. So the microstructure that we're going to use to think about your particular facilitation style comes from a website called Liberating Structures, and I've given you their website because there are many there, and you can go at your leisure to go look at those and try out different ones. The one that we are going to use is called 1-2-4-all, and it takes 12 minutes. And, you know, sometimes a little longer if you're a big talker like me. So I'm going to lead you through this so that you can experience what it's like, and in addition, so that's our process, and our content will be about you. Our content is what metaphor describes your style of facilitation, your individual personal style. So in the back of your notebook, you have some blue paper. I'd like you to get that out. Does everybody have a pen with them? I brought some extra pens just because I know some people don't carry them anymore. And does anybody need a pen? No, you've all got some writing pencils? All right. So to prepare for this activity, you want to get your paper out, get your pen out, and then I want you to make eye contact with the person beside you. That person will be your dyad partner, but you won't engage in the dyad just now. So make eye contact so that they know that you and they are working together and that they're going to one side, not the other. So, so after, so you're going to do individual reflection, dyad, then two dyads will get together, and then the whole group will get together. I will signal with my little bell, this is what it sounds like, at the end of each time, and you will be strictly timed. You will have 1 minute for your self-reflection, and I want you to jot down the metaphor for your style of facilitation. You can sketch it if you need to or want to, or you can use a few words. You can write a poem about yourself, but you get 1 moment, 1 minute. And then when you get into when you hear the bell, you will immediately go into your dyad. You will share your metaphors, and you will come up with a blended one that you think will be an improved style of facilitation. Not one that will be like half alligator, half elephant, but an improved style. And then when you hear the bell after 2 minutes, 2 dyads will get together. And you will discuss the similarities and differences of the style you came up with. So you're sharing 2 styles. And you will develop the idea further. Any questions about what we're going to do? All right.
I was thinking of animals like out down a Dow, half the dog, half the the dog part, friendly, everybody else dog, and then the other part, so it's kind of like a gardener. The garden.
So I feel like whatever we want, it is, you would like it. You know what I mean? But I feel like if I let go, but I'm not
Go around and
safety net, if you have something new, doing something new, and they're like, and then it's like, for me anyways, sometimes I have the voice on, and the dog wants to feel like, sometimes I need to like, I know,
Google Maps.
and then the owl.
You guys have more, I feel like we had so just kind of worked out.
sometimes you need to like, sometimes it's great. Oh my gosh, I think it's like always adjusting.
Like in my mind, where I know the process. Yeah, it works if everything finally is against. Okay, let's make a decision.
Yeah, because making this
Makes you the great guy.
All right. Lively conversation. So now we move back to the large group, and each group will report out. You'll have a few seconds to report out on your blended style. What one idea stood out in the conversation you had in your foursome, threesome, or fivesome? And we start on my left.
I think, we want the group to be enjoying what they're doing. You have to, if you're not enjoying what you're doing, then you're not gonna get anything out of it.
Super.
That's what we all had.
All right, the metaphor we came up with is Google Maps. Like, we have a destination, we have a goal, but depending on the group that you're with and how things are going, you might have to pick an alternate route or avoid construction. Because traffic is heavy. So
Pull over to the side.
Yeah.
Go to the beach.
Yeah. So just, having a goal in mind, but having lots of different ways we get there.
Great. So this group.
I just said, I didn't use one of the metaphors there, but we all talked about the need to be flexible. Like, I used the example of a reed, but also deeply rooted. So you understand the reason you're doing what you're doing. You're grounded, but also being flexible to listening to everyone.
So what would be a metaphor for being flexible but deeply rooted?
The reed.
The reed. Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't hear that. The reed.
A lot of science people over there.
Yeah.
We had a bear in elementary. Reed.
All right, this group.
We didn't really come up with an agreed upon metaphor. We all agreed that we saw ourselves as being able to help solve problems, and that people would understand that we've been in the same place that they are in, right? And that we are here to figure out what you need and help you.
Okay. So you've been where they are, and you can help them get where they want to go. You want to be helpful.
Yes.
So what's a good metaphor for that? What would symbolize?
Your Sherpas.
We
need to be over there. My picture was the person on a crew team that's in charge of the boat.
Okay.
I don't know what that person's called. Coxswain.
You get a nice little.
So that was my drawing, was that, we're all in the same boat, we're gonna
A yellow
guide
lot,
you.
Yeah.
That's a wonderful metaphor. Very good. All right, this group.
We talked a lot about flexibility and adaptability, and you might have your own certain style, but when you're sitting there with a group, whether it's 5 people like you said, or 15, that you really need to gauge what their needs are, and you need to be able to be flexible enough to adapt to that.
So our metaphor is a chameleon that has 8 legs like an octopus and a chef's hat.
And a chef's hat?
Yeah, well, we're just combining all our metaphors.
And what's your superpower? If you're a chameleon with 8 legs and a chef's hat. So you're getting the ideas.
Well, we talked about process. We talked about, understanding that there'll be a process that will have a goal, but you really do need to be flexible and adaptable in order to get there.
Yeah, what we really said is a master classroom teacher. It's what all the skills that a master classroom teacher should have, and we should think about it in that
Or a cockroach, because they're really adaptable.
They're enduring.
Yeah, they're enduring, persevering,
Like a
got a lot of
grit. All right, and what about this group down here?
No, you guys will go now.
So we banged around a couple ideas, from cruise director to coach, and coach with an exuberant color commentator, and they had a lot of talking. But what we ended up with, because we were wrestling with the idea of like facilitating, but we also said we all care about Like, it's one thing to facilitate and make everybody happy, it's another thing to actually come out with a good product, like a win. And so it was like a middle school basketball coach, right? Like, well, winning is sort of important, but you still want to get everybody involved and build the skills. Not like a pro team where, like, you know, there's only 7 people play. So that's what we were thinking, is like, you know, middle school basketball coach.
And everybody knows middle school is the toughest,
That's
so.
right.
All right, good job, guys. That was great. So you've experienced how a microstructure can get everyone engaged. There was a lot of talking, a lot of interacting. It's a very good method to use with a group who's being kind of bafflingly quiet for you, or people are saying things like, yeah, what she said is fine. Yeah, I'll go with that decision. Then you really pull it out of people. What's really going on? What are they really thinking about this? Give them a chance to reflect individually and then pull it out. So, but there are many other types for many other situations, and I know that you'll enjoy that website and you can take a look at that. All right. The next thing that we're going to talk about, kind of the other side of the coin. This is when you really need your superpowers. We come to that part that we never like to think about. We never like to think this will happen. Sam Kainer is a very experienced facilitation trainer, and he calls this the grown zone. You can see that we start, and we've all experienced this on this project, we start with business as usual, the way that we've always taught, the way that we've always assessed. It is very comfortable here. It is not easy to move away from business as usual. When you get into your groups and you start exploring the reasons that you are committed to this change in teaching, learning, and assessment, you start to have divergent thinking. People in the group have different ideas, different things they want to change. Then suddenly, what I like to call, everything goes wonky. You may have people raise their voices. They may throw their papers down on the table, turn away in disgust. You may have even experienced them getting up and walking out of the room. The grown zone, the facilitator goes, oh my God. You have to have this diversion if you're going to have change. In psychology, we talk about this as a significant emotional event. You always do what you always did until you have a significant emotional event that pushes you out of that comfortable way of being. This is why your groups have to go through the grown zone to various extents in order to get to a new way of thinking. Now, it's very possible to have a group that goes through minimal divergence, converging again. What happens at this end?
Business as usual.
Business as usual. You do not move. So if you're working with a group and you're saying to yourself, why aren't we moving? You don't have enough storm and disruption. You know, disruptive education, this is true for adults too. You have to have divergence in order to come to a new way of thinking. The key is, how do you manage that divergence so it is positive and you don't have people leaving the room or raising their voices at each other. You have amicable disagreement, you have discussion, you have lively discussions, you have lively disagreement that is done in an accepting way. This is the work of the facilitator. The facilitator is the one who has to make sense of what is going on in the group. Your group depends on that for you. They don't want it to be covert. They don't want to just experience what's going on and leave as baffled as they come. They want you to be the one to make sense. You probably can't see this, but this facilitator says, we're brainstorming here and there are no dumb ideas. If we weren't brainstorming, that would have been a really, really dumb idea. How do you make sense for the group? You use 4 skills. Just like your 4-legged table, you also have 4 superpowers. You're objective, you're reflective, you're interpretive, and you're decisional. You have to be very conscious of these skills and use them consciously. Don't just depend on them happening when they're supposed to happen. Think about when you need to use them and how you're going to use them. You must observe the facts of what is going on in your group. What is actually happening? Who is talking? Who isn't talking? What is the knowledge level that's coming out? What is the assessment literacy of the adults that you're leading? These are the facts. What do you see going on? Your reflection, not the group's reflection, your reflection as a facilitator in the moment. You're reflecting on what's happening. How is the group reacting to the facts, and how are you reacting? Take your own temperature. Are you getting anxious? That's a good sign that people in the group are getting anxious. So you want to deal with that. Where have you seen something like this before? This is just like thinking about the style. If you've experienced it before, it's easier for you to interpret. This is your interpretive function. What does this mean? What you're seeing and what you're reflecting on, what is it telling you? What information is it giving you about what stage the group is in, or what information the group doesn't have that they need to get to the next level? And this one, decisional, the action to take. And this bears repeating. One of the 4 legs of your superpowers is your decisional capability. As a facilitator, I want to empower you to help your group make decisions. This is the #1 complaint that I get from teachers in this project. Our facilitator did not help us make a decision. They left everything up to us and we couldn't agree. So think of this as one of your superpowers, that your job is to help make a decision, and you do that by being objective, reflective, interpretive, and then decisional. Don't jump right to the decision, because then you'll have to remake that decision. Does that make sense? I'm probably telling you stuff you already know. It's good to go over it, though. So I have a website that I'm fond of called Discipline Help. When I was in my 20s, I was a funded human subject researcher for UNH for several years in the area of psychology in the education department. And I had my own research project, but I also had the opportunity to work with others. That's when I started having experience with developing performance assessments. But one of the projects I worked on was a website called You Can Handle Them All. And this was kind of a grassroots website for teachers about behaviors in the classroom. It sought to assist teachers who were seeing disruptive behaviors to help them see children's disruptive behaviors as a poorly constructed attempt for a positive outcome. That every bad behavior is a desire for a positive outcome, but it's poorly constructed. It's just like bad wording. You're trying to say the right thing, but it doesn't come out right. You're trying to behave to get what you need, but it's not coming out right. Well, this is equally true for adults. This website over the years was purchased by a large company and was turned into what it is now, disciplinehelp.com, which now you have to pay to be part of it. And a lot of the good information that was there many years ago when I was 20 is not there, but there's still a lot of good information there that can be helpful. One of the things that it has is a different list of behaviors and the positive outcome that the child is seeking. So if you just translate that in your mind to the positive outcome the adult is seeking, this can be a big help to you if you are working with a group and you have somebody who is irritating you. Their behavior is popping up and you're like, I gotta call Ellen, I don't know how to handle this person. You can handle them all. Go and try to find out what it is, what is the positive outcome that they are seeking. And I'm just gonna do a very short overview of this. There are 4 main motivators of all behavior. That is that everybody is trying to get one of 4 things by how they act. They are trying to gain achievement, status, autonomy, or affiliation. Now, we often think this person is trying to gain power. Power is actually a secondary gain. It is not a primary gain. It is a secondary gain of all 4 of those. If you are high achieving, you have more power. If you have status, you have more power. If you have autonomy, you have more power. And if you are affiliated, you have more power. So don't think of power as being the ultimate goal. It is one of these 4 things that is the ultimate goal. Each one of these, as I'm sure you've experienced in the years of your life, can be either positive or negative. So achievement, people whose primary need is achievement, they struggle to control the group, and if they can't control the group, they will withdraw from the group. What can you do for people who have a need for achievement when you're facilitating a task development group? Any ideas? Ellen?
Give them a job.
Give them a job. What kind of job?
The person who's supervising the product.
Okay. So an important job. I was going to have Ellen be the person that passed around the pens. But
It's not that important. Not important enough.
Remember that anything you can do to help them achieve is going to make them more productive in your group and more cooperative with you. Status. This is true for everybody. We all want to have status. We all want to be seen as important and needed. People who need status in your group, they may brag that they have all the information, or they may be easily insulted as though, you think I don't have all the information. Or they may be the person that kind of struggles verbally to go through deals on the side with you. They won't speak up in the group, but they'll come to you afterwards and says, we really should do this, we really should do that. They're trying to have a higher status in the group by aligning that way. They desire to be recognized as an important person and to be an individual. How can you grant status to members of your group? Tell me right there. What?
So give them a crown.
Give them a crown.
Just compliment them or say, I know you have a lot of background in this area.
Refer to their expertise.
Yeah.
And
Like,
validate
Validate.
their contributions. Not make stuff up. Nobody likes fake.
Yeah, don't
say
fake,
And
right.
reval.
Does it give them a title in a group?
What kind of title would be authentic?
Well, they could be the leader of the group or the expert in a particular subject area that they people could refer to now.
Yeah.
You've called us all leaders.
What?
You've called us all leaders.
Yes, that's true. And I have actually used that. As a facilitator, I don't need to lead. Will you lead the group for me today, and I'll be the note taker. Autonomy. Autonomy it's such a cool need. Everybody needs to have their way sometime. And some people need to have their way a lot of the time for various reasons. But it's the need to have important input into the situation. People who have a high need for autonomy will not play if they can't influence the group. They really need their input to be listened to and to influence the group, or they will just leave the group. They will say, this initiative is not important to me. I can do better in my own classroom, because that's where I can have influence and input. Now you have a goal that needs to be met, so you can't really say everybody gets to do whatever they want. How do you grant autonomy to your group members and still get the group work done?
choice.
Tell us more about that. I think that's
Watching
very insightful.
what was happening in some of the ELA groups, although there was going to be a common task and a common rubric, they got to have choice. Choice in the literature, or choice in the actual, task, like essential questions, that kind of thing.
Can you envision yourselves giving choice to your group members and being able to let go of the choice that they make? That can be tough, yeah. Very good. And affiliation, the need to feel close and a part of the group. I think we all know people who are just really outgoing, they join all the clubs, they volunteer for all the activities. They have a strong affiliation need, a strong need to be recognized and wanted. These people really want to care about the work, but they can't care about the work unless they feel that you care about them. Their highest need is to be part of the group and recognized as part of the group. If they don't have that, then they will go join a group where they do get that. What can you do to support the affiliation needs in your small group work?
Is that ice-breaking stuff, team building kinds of things?
Yes, only if it works. Only if the team actually does become closer. Yeah.
Okay, that does. Second day on this new laptop.
Some of those protocols where, some of the protocols where everybody gets a voice and they get to speak what they think.
Okay. That will help them feel more affiliated, more closer to the group.
I think creating a sense of accomplishment, like that, the ability to revisit the work that we've done, that we've collectively created, and reminding them that we were all part of it, and moving on, just, returning back to what we've all worked on, that we're all in it together. I know that works really well with kids particularly, so.
I really resonated with one of the things you said, that we're all in it together. I think that is a very good atmosphere to foster in your groups. And I think that you all have that. You're very, very natural, very engaging, treat others as equals, and this would lead the person who needs affiliation to want to be part of your group. And your job would be to keep them in that place, that we're all in this together, and you are important to me. Yeah.
Somewhat connected to that, I was thinking of this with the autonomy as well, that you can assume a positive presupposition that the person's there to do the job. And whether they're there to have this particular need met, that they need to be close to others, or that they need to be individualized, whatever the case may be, that they're there to do the job. And if you can reframe it in such a way without being patronizing about it, that I know it's important for you that we get this job accomplished. It's tricky, though, to do it in such a way that doesn't sound like you're trying to...
No, I'm really glad you said that, and I think that, I think that you must do that in order to be able to speak about it that way, that this must be something that you've experienced, that assuming positive intent is not easy, especially if you had had prior experiences with a person who seems negative to you. Coming to each group session with a fresh and open mind, and assuming that if they are returning, they're there because they want to be there and they want to contribute. And your job is to see the light in others and be able to bring that forward. I think thank you, Chris, that's very important. Ellen?
I just wanted to add that it goes back to autonomy too, that when you facilitate and you see an outcome, it's really, really important to validate a better decision made by the group.
Say more about that. Say that again.
Well, we heard it today, right? We've as a group, as a project, we've had this idea that a task, we wouldn't repeat a task. Like we'd try and build a task bank, but we had a suggestion on the table today that maybe we should think about that there are some tasks worth revisiting for multiple years, because maybe it's a better idea to make them of quality rather than to have more. And I think that we need to, we as facilitators need to respond to that because that's a good decision. And it may not have been how we started.
Yeah.
So, but for autonomy, the person who made the suggestion, I'm sure feels pretty good, like, okay. It was a good, right, that's good, it was a good decision. No, but I mean, yeah, I think it's very, very important, because if you facilitate, you don't allow, people in the group know a good decision's being made and that you're ignoring it. That's bad, right?
Yeah.
That's all.
I saw a marvelous example of that at one of the elementary schools of one of our PACE districts, where they're working on the cross-cutting skills, the non-academic cognitive skills. And the students keep track of their own competencies in this area. And a fifth grader, what is fifth, 8 years old?
11.
Fifth grade is 11?
Yeah.
Well, he looked younger.
They're still babies.
Yeah.
We're starting sooner or later.
He went up to his teacher and he said, you know what? I practice different competencies in different classes, different subjects, so I need to keep track of more than one of my competencies. And the teacher, God bless her, said, you're right, and changed the way that they do their program based on the feedback of this 10-year-old. I mean, how moving is that? Talk about treating others as equals and seeing the light in others. And that's something that we want to strive for. First to listen, and then to be able to respond. So we've explored structure and microstructures, sources of information, mood of the group, your own style of facilitation. The only thing left that I have for you is how you communicate that style to others. How many here have worked with mindfulness practices or do any mindfulness meditation? Very, very useful. They're mindfulness practices, they call it the Eightfold Path. The first is wise view, the second is wise intention, and the third is wise speech. And I find this extremely useful in my work environment. I want to share with you the practice of wise speech, sometimes called right speech, but we think of it more as wise speech or useful speech. Wise speech is about speaking skillfully to other people and avoiding unskillful speaking. Unskillful speaking arises from our gut reaction of the moment. Speech that is honest, timely, useful, friendly, and creates social harmony is considered wise or skillful. Wise speech frees us from the agitation that comes with regret. Has anyone around the table ever said anything that on reflection caused them regret? Never, Kathy? No?
I'm joking, on a daily basis, don't worry, or a momentary basis.
Which hour of the day?
Man, I'm telling you, the agitation that comes with regret. And I have a boss who is extremely attentive to my speech. Every time I say something that may cause other people harm, he will pin me down and beat me. So I am very attentive to the agitation that comes with regret. Develop the custom of pausing before speaking.
Who's your boss?
It was honest.
It's a good learning experience. It has developed me as a person. Develop the custom of pausing before speaking. Even a pause so short that it's unnoticed by others can make you aware of where you're coming from when you speak. So the characteristics to speak honestly, respectfully, what is beneficial at the appropriate time and with goodwill. What does that really mean? So honesty is a tough one because in our life, in our universe, in the kind of dimension in which we live, it is possible for two opposite things to be true at the same time. Have you ever experienced that? So being honest is not about what's true, because there can be a wide continuum of what's true. Being honest is about what is the reason that you're speaking this. Are you speaking because you want to close that person down because they're causing you anxiety? Are you speaking because you have some benefit to give to the group? Are you fooling yourself that what you're saying will have benefit when it's really for your own benefit? Take a pause and think about your motivation for speaking those words. We often speak out of anxiety. Speaking respectfully, that true belief that everyone is worthy of respect, even when they're not treating you respectfully. I think that we have all, as adults, I don't think you get to adulthood unless you've been in a conversation where somebody is speaking to you disrespectfully, and you are standing in your zone and trying to reply in an honest and open and respectful way. I'm sorry that happened. What can I do to make this better? What do you need from me? To speak what is beneficial, what is going to enhance the situation, what is going to make it better, what is going to lead your group onward. And my favorite one, actually this is really my favorite one, and one that I continue to contemplate and learn more about, to speak at the appropriate time. I think we've all been in a situation in a group when we know the answer, and we know the best answer, and we've got the best words in our head, and we really want to answer that question. We really want to give that information. But the group is like, not going there. They are not ready to hear it. They have not reached the same understanding, had the same experiences where they can take what you want to say and put it to good use. So think about the appropriate time. It is okay for your group to come up with the wrong answer. Remember the groan zone? They may be in a place where they have to do the wrong thing and then say, oh wait, this doesn't work. And then they come up with the answer that you could have told them 2 meetings ago. But you need to let them come to that. Not in every situation, but it's something to think about. Is this the right time? Can people hear what I have to say to them? It's not about you having the opportunity to speak. It's about them needing to hear what you have to say. And do they need that or not need that? And then to speak with goodwill. Your intended outcome is for the good. Not to keep people in line, not to put them down, not to make them be the kind of teachers you want them to be, but to have good intention and goodwill for the outcome. This last slide I put up here because I just want to emphasize, it's a nice little flow chart, isn't it? You have it in your little bag of tricks. Is it true or not true? Beneficial or not beneficial? I wanted to emphasize it is okay to not speak. There are times when what you have to say does not need to be said. But then the time will always come when you can speak if you wait for the right time and they can hear it. We can use this with partners and spouses too, it works really well. All right. Thank you very, very much for your time and your attention. I value you all so much, and the conversation that you had was